Hey there, it's Tinkle, and this is the LG G Flex2. This is the phone that LG launched at CES 2015. I got to play with one then, and this is my review. I've got a review in it. This is super exciting, really awesome phone. There are two things that really make this phone unique. Number one, it has got a curved screen and curved design overall, very much like last year's G Flex. But unlike last year's G Flex, it is a high-end phone, not a mid-range phone, and it does have a smaller screen this year. It's back to 5.5 inches instead of the 6 inches of the original. So it's a little bit more manageable. Two, it has the latest and greatest from Qualcomm on board, the Snapdragon 810. This is my first device with an 810. It's probably one of the first out there with an 810. So it's a super snappy processor, and that makes it pretty exciting. In terms of everything else, it's pretty much like a G3. So you could think of this as a flagship device in a way. It does have a slightly lesser resolution screen. The G3 has a Quad HD display at 5.5 inches. This is a 1080p display at 5.5 inches. But it is a curved display, as I mentioned. It's plastic AMOLED. And compared to the 6-inch 720p display of last year's G Flex, same technology, but huge improvement. You can really see the quality of this display. The colors, everything just looks absolutely phenomenal. The curve here, there you go, very obvious. You can kind of see how what it looks like. And then as you can see, this beautiful red finish in the back, really quite gorgeous. This is a Korean-only phone, so it's got LTE Advanced, as you can see. For now, hopefully it'll come to North America, Europe, and some other parts of Asia at some point in the future. Very similar layout to the G3, and you can see a very similar camera arrangement with laser autofocus. So you've got a Snapdragon 810, we've already established that, 3 gigs of RAM, and 32 gigs of built-in storage. It does have micro SD card support. There is a removable battery cover here with a micro SIM and micro SD card. The battery itself is not removable. It is a 3000 milliamp hour battery. I've only had this phone for a few days. I really haven't had a chance to really get a good feel for battery life. But so far, I've been going a day and a half, no problem. I'm sure I can stretch it to 2 days. So it's a pretty good battery life for me. And this is the first time we get to see LG skin with Lollipop. And as you can see here, there is a kind of Google Now things, they call it Smart Tips. So basically you've got this adaptation of LG's standard UI that we've seen on previous versions of Android onto Lollipop now. You know, it doesn't get in the way too much, but you know, here's the tray, as you can see. The Google Now launcher is what I've been using on this phone, along with the Google keyboard, simply because I want more of a Nexus experience. So I've already talked about the logos in the back. You can see the back gets really dusty, but it is made of some sort of self-healing plastic. At least that's what LG claims, and well, it does seem to be impervious to small scratches, but I wouldn't really go too crazy. They make it sound like it's scratch proof, but it really isn't. It's a really gorgeous red finish though. It comes in a more boring shade of gray as well. So you got, you know, the speaker down here next to the LG logo, the LTE Advanced logo, which is, you know, specific to this Korean device. By the way, this is an unlocked phone working on AT&T in the US. The LTE bands are compatible with AT&T, but if you want to use it with T-Mobile, you're stuck on HSPA+. Volume rocker and power key, a very standard layout that's very familiar on LG phones. And then here you have this 13 megapixel autofocus camera. It's got optical image stabilization. Yay, you know how much I feel about that. This is a very important part of a flagship phone today. This is an improved version of OIS. And it does have laser autofocus, you can see it there, and the dual LED dual color flash. So basically in that sense, it's kind of a slightly improved version of the G3 camera. Unfortunately, the camera interface still is super basic. You don't have a lot of choices when it comes to taking photos in terms of manual adjustments and such. And that's a bit of a disappointment to me, to be frank. And here we go, we're back on the Google Now launcher, which is my preferred way of doing things. You can see pretty much a standard Nexus experience almost here now. So remember this curve I was talking about. LG says that if the phone falls on the face like that, the stresses are going to concentrate on the edges here and distribute through the frame of the phone. So it's going to be a little more rugged. I have a feeling they're right. This seems to be a sound proposition. What else is there to say? that's pretty much it. Top-notch specs, great battery life, awesome camera, and a beautiful screen, and a very unique looking design. Let's do some comparisons with other phones, shall we? First, of course, is the G3. So the big difference between these two, obviously other than the CPU difference, is the screen. The G Flex2 here has a 1080p plastic AMOLED display, and the G3 has a Quad HD, much higher res IPS panel, and Snapdragon 810 for the G Flex2, which is a newer phone, versus Snapdragon 801 for the LG G3. So yeah, that's basically it in a nutshell between these two. Let me flip them over so you can really see how similar they actually look. Check it out, like same layout. Yeah, so you do miss the removable battery from the G3, which is a nice thing to have, but it's a removable cover. The reason it's sealed 3000 milliamp, as I mentioned, is because the phone is curved. So comparing the G3 and the G Flex2 in terms of thickness, you can see the curvedness of the G Flex2. I'm trying to line them up so that they're roughly in the same height. There you have it. You can really see the curvature of that display on that phone versus the G3. And if I do this, you can see it even more. So let's compare this to last year's G Flex. I actually dug it out and found it. Here it is. As you can see, a large phone. The big difference is here obviously in the displays, right? 5.5 inches 1080p versus 6 inches 720p. And you know, honestly, the first gen, I guess, plastic OLED is it's kind of not quite as realistic in terms of color, and contrast is a bit of an issue. But you know, this has been remedied with the new phone, and I think it's a more manageable size. You know, 6 inches is pretty large. I have a Nexus 6 and I'm struggling with the size a little bit still. So 5.5 inches, and also this was a mid-range device last year. It didn't have OIS on the camera, even though it had a Snapdragon 800. So here's what they look like side by side. As you can see, big size difference, but of course, if you stack them on top of each other, you can see how they're both curved phones. Ha, magic. So there's one more set of phones I want to compare this device to, and that's the iPhone 6 and the Nexus 6. And so this is just to give you a feel in terms of kind of size. Obviously, it fits somewhere in the middle because it's somewhere in the middle in terms of screen size. So on the left here, you have an iPhone 6 with a 4.7 inch screen. In the middle, you have the G Flex 2 with a 1080p 5.5 inch display. And here on the right, you have a Nexus 6, which has a lovely Quad HD display, which is absolutely bonkers. It's also AMOLED, which is interesting. So let's flip them over so you can see what they look like. And there you have it. iPhone 6, LG G Flex 2, and Moto Nexus 6. Ta-da! So yeah, that's basically it in a nutshell. My review of the LG G Flex 2. Pretty awesome phone. I really love the size. I love the form factor. Pretty impressive on specs. Really, again, the only thing you're giving up a little bit versus the G3 is obviously the fact that the screen isn't Quad HD and the fact that the battery isn't removable. But frankly, with a Snapdragon 810, a gorgeous display, a slightly improved camera, and Lollipop, which still some G3s are waiting for and haven't received, you know, you can't really go wrong with this phone. Hopefully it'll make it to your part of the world. So stay tuned for more reviews from me soon. Subscribe to my channel on YouTube, and please like this video, and follow me on Twitter. I'm Tankgirl, TNKGRL, and my blog is tankgirl.com, also TNKGRL.com. Cheers!